Oh, yeah, hold on, let me get this. Hello?
Yeah, g'day mate, is this Cranktown speaking?
Ah, yeah, is this the Nigerian prince? Don't worry, man. I sent the money, it should be there soon.
No, it's Finley. That doesn't matter. This is about the toast.
Toast?
The toast I bet I can cook faster than you.
It's on!
That escalated quickly, but no matter. The challenge was not only set, but accepted. Nothing for it, but to make an extremely fast toaster. Let's get cracking. The plan is to use a turbo. Now this is going to have a pressured chamber which will have the fire in, so we will be using a wood fire. The expanding exhaust gases will go through the exhaust side of the turbo. That'll power the compressor side, adding oxygen back into that barrel, increasing the amount of wood that can burn in a certain time period, in turn increasing the amount of exhaust gases, creating an exponential cycle that hopefully will create a very hot fire. That's the plan anyway. And there's nothing for it but to get stuck into making a sealed barrel with welding, which is much more difficult than you suspect. Right, so it's a nice barrel. I ended up having to hammer along this ridge to get the final little overlap to roll around, as well as using bottom and top plates to crimp around. Without them, it kind of made a bit of a more oval barrel shape, which is not ideal. Now, I've cut the ends of this piece of wood off, so then we can now weld up the ends. Then we can move the straps closer to the middle, cut the middle out, and then hopefully weld that up and it retain its nice uniform barrel shape. Let's see how we get on with that. Okie dokie, what we're doing here is seam welding everything up. Now I've got it at a nice welding height. Hopefully that'll allow me to do some nice sealed welds. Keyword there, hopefully. Right, these are the two top plates of the barrel. This will be welded inside and then this will be what's bolted to it. Now what I want to do is bolt them together and then weld all the nuts on the back to make them captive, and then we'll weld the whole system while it's all bolted together into the barrel. These are sealing surfaces. And excitingly, that rectangle is where we put the toast in. So this is now officially a toaster, not just a barrel. Let's drill these holes out. Right, welding the captive nuts on the top plate here, you'll see I've used galv bolts to hold in the stainless steel nuts. That's because if I use stainless steel bolts here, they would fuse and that would be quite the headache. So there's a little trick for you guys out there. Alright, you can see the gap, it's huge, and I don't know how it's formed because I had, everything in place while I was welding and working on the outside, so somehow the whole thing has stretched. I think I might just cut the weld, back a couple 100 mil, and then we'll reclamp, and then just have to work everything out nicely. Do that. Right, that's the barrel mostly welded up, which means we need to make the frame to hold it. Now I'm very excited because we're going to actually use the MIG welder there, which is much faster and it's not a TIG welder really, isn't it? That's why I'm pretty excited. Now the material we're going to use is this, which is pre-galv. It's just galvanized mild steel. It's great material, obviously it won't rust, and it's just saves a bit of hassle of painting. But when you weld it, it sucks. Your welds will look terrible, as well as it releases a whole bunch of toxic fumes, which are very hazardous. I mean, very, very hazardous. So make sure you ventilate the area with a respirator on, as well as just grind those ends with a flap disc to remove as much galv as you can where you're welding. That will just make it a little bit better. Anyway, let's cut the parts out, hey? Right, so there's the barrel, it sits in there, which is held by these two straps Both of them have hinging points. This will let them, just adjust and move and mold to the actual shape of the barrel. Just picks up all those discrepancies, which is very important when you actually put it under tension, which is what these straps do. They've got bolts at the end for tension. The next thing we're going to fabricate is the oil and water reservoirs. Very important to make sure the turbo actually keeps functioning. Now, I was going to make them like this barrel here, the drum, two little drums rolled up, but I've honestly been having too many nightmares. I shake myself awake, cold sweats, my hands are in the form of feeding the TIG rod in, the stress is getting to me, so we're not going to do that. We're going to do it with mild steel, this lovely bit of clean box section here, straight from the dry inside, definitely not left outside. For volume, I'm going to go 2 litres per catch can. If you wanted more, then you'd have more thermal mass, which would be more of a safety blanket for the turbo. Right, well, let's get on with it. So we're just welding up the reservoirs. Now I've gone ahead and tapped each corner of the inserts that go inside the box section. Now this is only 2.5 mil plate, but because nothing's load bearing, those threads will be perfectly fine. And then the top cap will obviously pull against, snug against the top there. We don't actually want it to seal though. As everything heats up, it's going to expand, so we do want stuff to breathe. And so we're just not going to go for a sealed edge. Right, well, let's weld them up with MIG. How exciting. Right, so we're about to mount the turbo to the barrel, but before we get that far, we need to make ourselves an exhaust and oil flange. We're going to use some juicy 8mm plate so we get a nice sturdy sealing surface. Now, to CAD this up, put your ruler next to the flange, take a nice photo, use a linear lens on your phone, and you'll end up being able to calibrate off that image and get a beautifully fitting flange. We're just making that little oil flange. We've got 2 little snorkels so we can actually get away from the turbo because it's too tight to get our fittings in there. Right, so we've just lapped the bottom of the oil flange. Last thing to do is add some connectors, and that's going to be with some BSP threads. Cutting BSP is a pain with a tap. It's tapered, so it just gets really hard really quickly. So I've just bought some BSP to BSP fittings, weld them on, and there we go. $3 a pop. That's definitely worth it in my book. Before we weld up stuff that we can't undo, we need to consider the position of the turbo. Now in this case, and most turbos, you should always have the oil drain at the bottom. So that means the exhaust port's 90 degrees, and that's how it'll be mounted in the engine this is designed for. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work for us. A 90 degree at this short length would really drop the pressure and cause some inefficiencies. We want efficiencies, because this is all in the name of getting some fast toast. So what we're going to do is mount it at half medium, 45 degrees, and with this little piece we'll just do a couple lobster backs around 20 degrees-ish, and we should get a nice 40-45 degree bend. Right, we've nearly finished the exhaust. The last thing we've got to do is make sure that we have a good mating face between the exhaust and the turbo. The way we're going to do that is flatten it on a big grinding disc and hopefully end up with a nice, smooth, polished face. Right, so we're actually mounting the turbo up. Finally, I know. But I've got a bit of cardboard here to protect the sealing surface on the top of the drum, and there's nothing for it. We've done a whole bunch of measurements. Let's cross our fingers and eyeball this up nicely. Right, we need to just tack it up, and hey presto, we're in business. Let's get the TIG out and finish it up. Now, my biggest concern is it pulling out of alignment, so we'll weld, a little seam on the top, and then we'll do a little on the bottom. And obviously the weld contracts, so it pulls it. So then, we'll just kind of counteract that the whole time. The other thing you could do is preheat. I'm not preheating this. Now that the exhaust is welded on and finalized in its position, we can go ahead and cut through the wall so they are conjoined. Before we get carried away and start working on the intake, we need to make ourselves another wee bracket. Now we've got this top bracket holding everything nice and securely, but we can't be too secure, can we? So let's speed run through making a bracket. We're doing the intake side of the turbo now. Exactly the same process as what we did for the exhaust, but there's a little bit more complex stuff going on. So we're going to just weld the first section together, which obviously doesn't matter because it's only one lobster back, so it doesn't matter the orientation. And then we can start looking at what to do for the last little pie section to get the right angle. Right, so we have our beautiful charge pipe. Now we need to cut it in half and then we'll weld on these flanges. This will allow us to bolt everything together, keep everything a little bit more modular and adjustable, which is very much what we need. That's the plan, so crack on with it. Right, that's the flanges on the intake as well as a little nipple. This will be where we take the boost pressure to a boost gauge. Now I've got to say, it's looking pretty damn nice. Definitely the nicest toaster I've ever seen. Now, I do sound surprised because usually things at this stage don't look nice, or ever. Let's bolt it together, weld it up, and we should be pretty close to the next stage. Because there's so many things left to do. Right, let's carry on. Honestly, that may look real jank, but that is now held perfectly in position. Nice mating face. Easy enough for me to get in there and just tack weld it and not stress about it moving. We are mounting the reservoirs. Now they're midway, which is not ideal, above the turbo, so the highest points should be the reservoirs. Unfortunately, in my case, having them up here would get completely in the way of the toast operator. So down here, and we'll just have to make do with possibly introducing air or air locks into the system. So yeah, let's weld them up. Okay, we are mounting up the radiators. Pretty exciting. We are starting to get somewhere. Now this is actually a heater core, so this is what heats up your car. If you ever wondered, it's a little radiator, pumps coolant from the engine through it and then into your car. Obviously that's why it's not warm in the morning or when you start the car initially, because it takes the time to heat up the coolant within the engine before it'll actually heat up your car. We tip with Finley. Anyway, let's jump over to the plasma cutter and cut out ourselves, a little bracket to hold this up. Okie dokie. Nothing for it but to remove the very delicate radiators that I have already put my thumb through multiple times, remove them and then weld everything up. Right, what are we up to now? We are doing arguably the most important part of the whole toaster, and that's the toaster section. Now I say arguably because it looks like someone around here has put a lot of effort in other areas rather than just the the actual cooking part. But anyway, let's not get bogged down with details. What are we doing? We need to make the seal to hold, cover the hole in the whole barrel. The whole thing needs to be under pressure. If it's not under pressure, turbo's not spooling, things are not working. The quick latch works, so we can push down the handle, lift up the other handle, the sealing surface goes up with it, and now we have an unsealed hole that we can throw our piece of toast in. Bread, I should say, and it'll come out as a piece of toast. Or charcoal, we're not sure yet. Anyway, it'll be on a cartridge, throw that in, whip it out. Once it's out, we can slam the sealing surface back down, pushing down with a little bit of force, nothing crazy, locking our handle up, and it's done. Now if that seal starts loosening, we can just crank down that handle, it's on a thread, and we'll get more tension on that seal. Alright, we're making the throttle, which will be a lever on the top here. Push and pull, and we'll be able to open and close the internal wastegate, which is just down here. I've already put a lever on it. We just need to push and pull, and we should be on our way. Now I'm just going to use a couple cam systems, keep it nice and simple. We don't need to make anything too complex, do we? Right, the throttle is done. Now it's got a huge amount of throw, so we've got really good resolution. Large movements up here are translated only to small ones down at the turbo. finished that trap door. Now it's actually sealed by the pressure in the barrel. The weights are just to ensure that it gets close enough for it to take over. Now the point of it is a bit of a fire resistor. You know, if you just opened up a massive hole, this whole thing's under pressure, it's going to vent to atmosphere, you're going to get a huge ball of fire in your face. Not ideal when you just want a piece of toast. You know, we want to make sure this is adopted in every household, you know? Right, let's make that cartridge. The toaster rack is done. We pop our latch and open. We can put our piece of nice bread in here. Now this, unfortunately, is, it feels like toast already. That's how stale it is. Anyway, close it up and latch it down. Now that's locked in there. That's not going anywhere. Unsealed the barrel and we slam down our toaster or toaster rack into the blaze of fire. Wait until the handle either gets too hot to hold or the toast is cooked. I have no idea what will come first. And we pull it out with good speed. Now our toast will be nice and cooked and you simply have to release the valve and your toast will fall onto your plate. I have to apologize for that infomercial kind of selling of it, but hey, it's blooming great, isn't it? Right, we're making the intake. It's going to be nice and simple. It's going to have a little butterfly valve in there so we can just throttle the amount of oxygen getting into the system. Now the reason that is so important, we have all the fuel source in the burn chamber already really hot and good to burn. You know what that's a recipe for? Yes, that's right, a runaway. So simply add a bit of oxygen to that system and she's going to be purring to a point where we lose control. So hopefully being able to suffocate the system and bypass the turbine, we'll be able to keep it within sensible control, I hope. Not your usual problems with your toaster, I've got to admit, but hey, all in the pursuit of speed.
I've welded in place. Disasters at all fronts.
There we have it, a functioning butterfly valve. We just need to make ourselves a nice handle, and we're on home straight. We're sealing up the barrel, definitely a very good moment. There's a couple of ways we can do this. RTV, not high temp enough though, and an exhaust gasket. Yeah, we're not even going to talk about that. So, we're going to use ourselves some fiberglass rope. This is the stuff you use to seal up your fireplace with. Fingers crossed, it will seal, because I know it's good for the temperature. I think it's good enough for the temperature. We just hope it's... There's a lot of ifs and hopes, okay? Let's get off my back, guys. We're just going to put it in place and hope it works. Stepless clips. You could use hose clamps, but I've got these, so I shall use them. Alright, there has been some crimes of plumbing, but that's alright, because we can't make it worse now when we add our wiring lid. So let's go grab that. So I've kept it super simple. As you can see, we've just used XT60s and XT30s, because they're the connectors I have a whole bunch on hand. I'm gonna just tidy this up off camera. It's rough, isn't it? Oh, don't judge me, guys. It's time to bolt it up. Very nervous. Hopefully the rope stays in place because it's kind of wobbling around a wee bit. Okay, the toaster works too well. Terrifying, actually. It ran away once, so we're happy we have 2 safety levers, because it went from 5 to 25 psi in a fraction of a second, and at least we were able to rein it back into a realm of less danger with the 2 levers. I can only imagine what happens if it ran away fully. Anyway, we did cook some toast. Now, not inside, because it actually killed the fire when we opened up. Quite strange. But we put it in front of the exhaust, and some would say, you know, that's disintegrated charcoal. I would just say it's lightly burnt, slightly overdone toast. So perfect. You don't even need the crust. It's fine. Now the taste, it's an acquired one. It's, you know, an acrid wood smoke that not only do you smell, but you taste, and it lingers for quite a while. As well as the oil taste. It's yeah. You can taste those carcinogens. But anyway, all in the name of speed, which was... That's our time! Sub 10 seconds! Insane! Speechless. Well, I'm not speechless. We burnt most of a barrel in 10 minutes. That's a lot of energy being dispersed. Anyway, make sure you check out Cranktown's video and see how fast he cooked toast. Now, I'll give you a wee spoiler. He's gone ahead and put a robot inside of a microwave, and I've seen his piece of toast. It looks amazing. It's not charcoal like mine. He's actually made toast, so do check out his video. It's a good watch. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. This was a monolith of a project for me to undertake. If you enjoyed this one, possibly give me a thumbs up and maybe even a subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I shall see you next time.